Hey, what's up, family? Hey, today we're going to do this video here. It's going to be a little bit sentimental on this one here. We're going to be dealing with the word stoic. Now, that's S-T-O-I-C, stoic. Now, as always, you know I love to give you a word of the day. So the word of the day is going to be the title of the video as well, stoic. Now, if you look up the word stoic, it simply means a person who endures hardship or pain and don't show their true feelings or complain. They do no complaining or nothing like that. Now, we've known what this means. We've seen it within our family, friends, or co-workers. You know, the most common thing is, let's say a person lose a loved one, right? And you may see that person carrying on, unlike everybody else in the family, boo-hooing, crying, this and that. You see that one person, you go, man, it don't seem like it affected them. Oh, trust me, it affected them. It's just everybody got their own way of dealing with pain and grief. You know, just because you may cry or yell out or act out, whatever, this other person may be very stoic at how they handle it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, a person who can endure hardship or pain without showing their feelings or complaining. Lots of people out there are stoic. Some people out there are stoic. It may not always be death. It might be, how many times we've heard someone lost their job? You got people out here killing themselves when they lose their job. You know, they may lost all their finances or something. You know, go through some type of hardship. But the most common is, you know, when there's death in the family or something like that. And we see that one family member, you go, man, I think he's dealing with it, or she is dealing with it real hard. The loss of grandma or dad or moms or whatever the case. Because, yo, they don't seem to be showing their feelings. See, that's called stoic. So in this video here, I'm going to give you 3 stories dealing with stoic, right? And hopefully it'll stick in your head. And as always, it'll broaden your vocabulary by learning how to use more words. But it'll stick. It'll be like a stain in your brain of knowing exactly what it means. Because sometimes you got to put a story with a word and you go, yeah, I always remember that word. So I'm going to give you 3 stories. I'm going to start off with the first one. It was a childhood friend of mine. I'm not going to say his real name nor his mother's real name because it deals with both of them. So let's just say the guy name is Johnny, right? It was one of my childhood friends. Man, me and this guy hung together quite often. I hung with a bunch of other friends too. But I remember this one cat, Johnny. We hung together a lot. We was in the same class. We hung together a lot. I mean, one of them type of friends, you know what I'm saying? When we chilling somewhere, he always leaning on my shoulder like, this is my best friend. That type of friend, right? Me and this dude ran the streets, all kind of stuff. Hung together a lot in elementary school. All the way up to the 5th grade, right? Used to build his house all the time, this and that at the park, all kind of stuff, right? But check this out. As we became adults, I barely seen Johnny anymore, right? I seen him once in a while. But when I did see him, man, it was all love. You know, and I would ask how his mom's doing every now and then, you know. It was all love. But as I said, as we became adults, I had heard, unfortunately, Johnny had got stabbed and killed in a very uneventful event. And, you know, that messed me up, man. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I was stoic to some degree. Who knows? But one thing for sure, I remember some time had passed and I seen Johnny's mother. And when I seen her, man, I was just so happy to see her that, you know, I stopped what I was doing to go over to her. And when I went over to her, as I was watching her before I went over to her, she just was very stoic. You know, it was like she was just carrying on life like almost like a zombie. I know it may sound crazy, but she was very stoic. She wasn't showing her feelings. It was like she was just a blank vision of a person just walking through life and no feelings at all. You know, everybody deal with hardship a little different than the other person. But anyway, I remember when I actually approached her, I was so happy to approach her. Man, I knew this lady very well. She knew me very well. Me and her son were best friends. We hung together a lot. One of my best friends, right? But do you know when I approached Johnny's mom, what I was expecting, because I was a young man, what I was expecting didn't happen at all. And this was one of the first signs of seeing a person very stoic. A person going through hardship and pain without showing their true feelings or complaining. So anyway, when I approached Johnny's mom, right, I said, hey, Mrs. Jones, let's just say. I was like, hey, Mrs. Jones, how you doing? And she turned around and she's like, oh, hi, how are you doing? Very stoic. Like she had no type of characteristics or nothing about her. She still was carrying her son's death. It's many years later. So I said, hey, Miss Johnny, I said, and the way she responded to me, I responded back to her and I said, hey, do you remember me? She's like, I'm so sorry, but how are you doing? And I said, hey, me and your son Johnny used to hang together all the time. I used to be at your house as a kid and everything, ate over your house. I said, you don't remember me? Mrs. Jones, come on, I used to be over your house all the time. You know, I was real animated talking to her. There was no animation in her at all. But when I said, I used to be with your son all the time, I used to be with Johnny all the time, instantly something clicked in her head. And she went from being very stoic to, she's like, you knew my son? You knew Johnny? And just stood there like a child almost. She's like, you knew Johnny? And I said, yes. I said, remember, we used to live on such and such street. We used to hang at the park up the street. Y'all used to live at I even said the address that they used to live. She's like, oh, you did know Johnny. Wow, you were one of his friends? The lady still was dealing with that pain of the loss of her only child. You get what I'm saying? That would be a case of stoic. Man, my heart goes out to her. I've seen her other times before, but she still was dealing with that pain. You know what I'm saying? To lose a lost one, man, it's a huge thing. But yo, let's go on. I'm gonna go to the second story. Now, the second story, this deals with me. Now, it's very uneventful that as a kid, I lost my mom at a very young age. I think I was about 4, maybe 5. But I think I was relatively about 4 or 5, right? I remember when my mom's first died, right? It was on, matter of fact, it was on my brother's birthday, my brother Andre's birthday, Christmas Eve. I remember me, my sister Lisa, and Angie at the house. And somebody came, banged on the door, boom, 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 boom. And when we answered the door, we was like, only one knocks like that is the daggone police. But then when we answered the door, one of the kids from the neighborhood, it was the most craziest thing what he said. It was no filter on his mouth at all. When we answered the door, like, man, who's knocking on the door like that? He said, Angie, Lisa, Lil Junior, yo, y'all better hurry up to the roof. Yo, your mother dead. He said it just like that. No filter whatsoever. We was like, what? And sure enough, my mother had passed away. Get to the point of stoic with me was, this was a big deal we had to deal with, you know. You gotta remember, as a kid, I had a bunch of brothers and sisters. There was 6 of us. But when it came to me, I was always my mother's shadow. If my mother went to the welfare building, I was with her. If my mother went to downtown shopping, whatever, all my other brothers and sisters, sometimes they want to come, but I want to be with my mommy. You know, I was with my mommy so much that my mother used to go to the local bars and stuff like that. And guess what? You got to remember, this is the early 70s, mid 70s. Yo, if my mother was at the bars at nighttime, guess what? I was in the bar with my mommy. You know what I'm saying? Man, my mother, that was my world. You know what I'm saying? It meant everything to me. So I'm just trying to paint you a picture so we get to the stoic thing. There was plenty of nights when I couldn't sleep, all because I had to go out my brother's room, because the girls shared a room and the boys shared a room. 3 boys, 3 girls. We had our own bedrooms. Well, we didn't have our own bedroom. 3 boys shared one room, 3 girls shared one room. Then we had my mother's room. Almost every night, I would get up in the middle of the night, walk down the hall to my mommy. I had to sleep in my mommy's bed with my mommy. Even if my mommy had company, it didn't matter. That's my mommy. This is how close I was to my mother. I was with my mother with everything. You get what I'm saying? I remember one time my mother got so drunk. We was all the way in New York. Her, my father, my mother, and my father. They were so drunk they couldn't even get their way home. But as a young boy, I started asking the conductors from this train, I crossed the tracks, this and that. Hey, which train go back to New Jersey? And I got me and my mother and my father back home. But get to the point. So now my mother had passed away, right? They had the funeral. I believe we had the funeral down south. We was in New Jersey. I believe we had the funeral down south. Now, when we had the funeral, we had to wait, and we had the funeral. Now, when we had the funeral, as a little kid, remember, I'm about 4 or 5 years old. I clearly remember seeing my brothers and my sisters, my aunts, my uncles, and other family members that I don't know because I'm such a kid, but they all seem to know me. All those stories. Boy, I ain't seen you so long. And I'm seeing all of them go up to the coffin to see my mother. And I didn't go up. And I'm seeing everybody crying and boo-hooing and hugging, and we're going to miss her. And man, and I just didn't go up to see my mother. I really didn't. I didn't go up for quite a while. Because I didn't realize I was stoic. I was dealing with a stoic situation. Remember, the word stoic means a person dealing with hardship or pain without showing their feelings or complaining. So anyway, after such a long time of watching all the other adults go up there, my brothers and sisters kept saying, "Little Junior, don't you want to go see mommy? Don't you want to go see mommy? Little Junior, come on, don't you want to go see mommy?" And after they asked me over and over and over, and then my cousins and them, "Don't you want to see your mother? Don't you want to see me?" After a long time, I finally went up to see my mother. And I just stared at her in the coffin with such a stoic look. I didn't cry. I didn't yell out or nothing. And then eventually they ushered me away. So you think that was it. That wasn't it. From that point on, we moved in with my uncle and my aunt in Elizabeth because we originally lived in New Brunswick. We moved there. Now, there's been some months had passed by. I'm going to school, hanging out with friends in the street, this and that, being very stoic and didn't realize it. I needed help. I may have needed help, but just didn't know it. So I was a kid. But I remember this one particular day. It was my two cousins that we lived with, because their parents had left. We lived with their parents. My two cousins, Junebug Pretty, and then it was my sister Lisa, because at the time she was living with us before she had to move back to New Brunswick. My sister Nendi, really Linda, and my brother Jonah. And then it was me. So it was 6 of us in the house. And I remember we was playing hide and go seek. Now mind you, I'm younger than all of them. And while we was playing hide and go seek, all of a sudden I was it. I had to catch everybody. Now mind you, this has been some months had passed since my mom had passed. Many months has passed. And while we was playing hide and go seek, I'm the littlest. All my brothers and cousins, they like 8, 7, 8, 9 years older than me. And they talking about I'm it. I gotta catch them. I can't catch them. They all bigger and small, bigger, faster than me, right? So of course I'm a little upset I can't catch them. And while we was running through the house playing this and that, out of nowhere, I was being stoic all this time, didn't know it. I may have needed help, just didn't realize it. Because remember, I didn't show any pain or hardship at my mother's wake, not at the funeral, and all this time. And I remember plenty of times my brothers and them used to say, "Man, little Junior act like this stuff not even bothering him. Mommy passing, he ain't cried or nothing all this time." But that day we was playing hide and go seek, I remember it clearly. Like I said, maybe I was upset because I couldn't catch them. But I know all of a sudden I had stopped chasing them and I had went to the couch. And all of a sudden I burst out crying. And it wasn't no phony cry. I was really upset. And then I remember they all came out of the hiding place and all that. And they all said, "Hey, look, you okay? You okay?" And I was really crying. I mean, really crying. The way most would have thought I would have been at the funeral. That's how I was crying. And they said, "Hey, boy, come on, boy, you could, it's all right, man. You can't catch us. It's all right, man. All right, one of us will take turns." And they said, but why are you crying? That's why you crying. I said, "No, I ain't crying because of that." And they said, "But why are you crying?" And then, remember, this is months later. Then all of a sudden, it just came out natural. I said, "No, I'm crying because my mother's dead." It took that long for me to finally let it out. So like I said, there's a lot of people out there that may have dealt with that the same way. And a lot of us, we do need some help, but we don't always get the help we need. But if you got family in you, like my brothers and sisters and my cousins, they was there for me. They guided me through it. They helped me. They talked to me and all that. And I still distinctively remember as they was all talking to me, I heard my brothers and my cousins them in the background saying amongst each other, "Man, that boy finally let that out. He been holding that for a long time. Do you know he ain't cried or nothing at the wake? Yeah, I didn't hear him cry or anything or show anything at the funeral neither. We was all wondering when he was going to let that all out. And see, as a kid at the time, I didn't quite get what they meant by that, but that was stoic. That's what you would call stoic. And it wasn't no act. It just, I didn't know how to act. I was just being me. And then that triggered, while me couldn't catch them in the game, me being so upset, it seemed to trigger a real pain that was deep within me. That made me so stoic for so long. And when it finally came out, I really burst out. I was hurt, man. I was like, my world, my mom was everything to me. This is my superhero. It finally hit me. She's gone. And that's why I was acting so stoic. So, like I said, a lot of people deal with that. Death is one of the most common reasons people act stoic, but it's also many other reasons. Certain crises, people losing their jobs, some type of medical condition, you got to watch somebody in the hospital and all that, and you become real stoic. There's many reasons. But let me move on to the last story. The last story is dealing with one of the many of my favorite movies called Crooklyn. In the movie Crooklyn, relatively made me think of my family. She had the girl Troy. Her name was Troy. She had a boy name. They used to call her Troy the boy, right? Troy had a bunch of brothers, and she was the only girl. And, they lived in, Brooklyn, New York. That's why it's called Crooklyn. And they lived in Brownsville. They lived in a brownstone in Brooklyn, New York. Had this big house. And they was rough on her. She was a girl, but they was rough on her, Troy the boy. But it was a part in the movie, she was close to her mother like I was. Always, her mother did her hair all the time, and they had personal time because she was the only girl. Like me, I was the youngest of all my siblings, so therefore my mother spent a lot more time with me, so I thought. But it's just a generation gets more time with the mother. But most kids don't get that. They think, you spend more time with them than you do with me. No, you got that same time when you was that age too. Most kids don't get it though. But anyway, Troy and her mother spent plenty of time together where she talked and she told her mother how, they be treating me like this. The mother used to explain to her, those your brothers, they gonna be rough like that, whatever, right? But the mother wound up getting cancer and she wound up dying. Although this is a great movie, this movie touched me because it reminded me of me a little bit. There was a scene in the movie at the actual wake of her mother. When the mother died, Troy wasn't talking to nobody. She was real quiet and shut down. And Troy was normally loud and stuff like that, fight her brother and all that. But when her mother passed, she became very stoic. Remember, a person to endure harm or pain without showing their feelings or complaining. So during the wake, she was real quiet. She didn't want to eat. She didn't talk much to nobody, nothing. And in this scene right here, all of a sudden, her little brother, he ran into the house where they was having the wake, and he said, Troy, they out there messing with me, and she said, what happened? They messing with me, they making fun of me, and they said, that's why your mother's dead. Remember, he's a little kid. He said, and when he said that to Troy said, who said it? She got up, ran outside, and she seen it was Spike Lee and his partner outside on the step. She just grabbed the stick. She said, you didn't talk about my mother? Pah! And she cracked him in the head. And he just started bleeding. And she's like, that's what you get for talking about my mother. It finally came out. But it was crazy. She was being so stoic all this time. But the moment somebody said something bad about her mother, that's why your mother's dead. Right? Kids can be so hurtful. But it came out. And it was like she was alive again. She wasn't so shut down. So anyway, man, I hope y'all appreciate that. Gave y'all a little bit of a personal moment of mine because, like I said, I remember my brothers and sisters saying that clearly, man. He been dealing with this all this time. He ain't been showing his feelings. Man, we know it's bothering little Junior. He used to always be with mommy all the time. And all of a sudden, it came out months and months later. See what I'm saying? And also, not to keep going on and on, but I remember it was another event that made me a little stoic. I was dealing with my cousin, Lil Carl from New Brunswick. I remember one time, man, we was hanging out with these other crew of kids, and one of the kids, me and him got into it like we was gonna fight, and the kid said them hurtful words that always mean an instant fight. He said, man, shut up, man, your mother. And when he said that, man, I kind of, I didn't know how to respond. When I remember my cousin little car right away, he jumped in front of me and he grabbed the kid. He said, yo, man, don't be talking about my aunt, man. Word is born. And then just grabbed the kid up and bust him up. And I still was just, it ain't like I was scared of the kid, but I was still dealing with that stoic situation. You know what I'm saying? It was like, damn, he just said something that just stopped me dead in my tracks. I still didn't know how to deal with it. That's what I guess I'm saying. But hey, in closing, what I would say to any and everybody out there, any and every family member out there, remember, everybody deals with crisis and hardship a little different than you. So when you see someone acting very stoic, remember, a person to endure hardship or pain without showing their true feelings or complaining. Don't be upset with them or don't try to push them. Just try to be more of a shoulder to lean on and try to be a little bit more understanding to them, because everybody deal with hardship a little bit different. And it ain't always something that you can quite understand at the very moment. And later they may open up to you and explain why they was doing or how, or maybe they just didn't know how to deal with it. But they'll open up to you later. So let them go through their hardship and their pain, and just be a shoulder to be crying on or a shoulder to lean on to be explaining some things. And on that note, I'm gonna let y'all go. Subscribe, share, like, and comment. I appreciate it, as always, because we all deal with these situations. Nothing I'm saying is nothing new to anybody. It's just something that touches on where you go, man, I can relate. I can relate to what he's talking about. That's what I'm talking about, what you're talking about, or what you're thinking. And on that note, subscribe, share, like, and comment. Peace.